Almost every country in the world is in debt. For example, the United States debt has surpassed $38 trillion. Yes, you heard that right, $38 trillion. The European Union has around $14 trillion in debt, and Japan's debt has reached $9 trillion. Even powerful nations like oil-rich Saudi Arabia or export giants such as Germany and China carry massive debts. But here's the real question. If everyone is in debt, who is the money owed to? This is where things start to get confusing, because debt isn't just a burden. It's practically the main pillar of the modern world. Wars, crises, economic booms, and collapses all stand on an invisible system of debt. And if you follow this chain to the very end, you notice something fascinating. The world isn't actually indebted to some single entity. In a way, it's indebted to itself. But that doesn't mean everyone benefits equally. Today, total global debt has surpassed $315 trillion, nearly 3 times the size of the entire world economy. So how did we get here? To understand that, we need to go back quite far. Long before credit cards or modern banking activities. The idea of national debt did not emerge on Wall Street, but on battlefields. In 1694, England was at war with France, and the gold in the treasury was running out. The king asked merchants for money. In return, he said, "Don't worry, I will pay you interest later through taxes." To manage this system, the Bank of England was established. For the first time, the state could spend money it didn't physically possess. In exchange, merchants received something extremely valuable, the promise of the state, and that promise could be bought and sold. That's how government bonds were born, the foundation of the modern financial system. Soon other countries followed: France, the Netherlands, the United States. All grew by borrowing. National debt was no longer a sign of weakness, but a symbol of strength, because if you could borrow, it meant you were trusted. In the past, empires conquered lands for gold. Later, they began issuing bonds for interest. Battlefields were replaced by financial balance sheets. Today, debt has practically become the world's largest product. The US owes over $38 trillion, Japan over $9 trillion. Global debt increases by roughly $1 trillion every 100 days. Every country is indebted. Every bank lends, and in reality, through our taxes, savings, and pension funds, we are both debtors and creditors. So who is holding the other end of the rope? Let's look at the United States, because its debt affects the entire world. Nearly half of the $38 trillion is owed to investors. But here's the interesting part. Most of those investors are American. Banks, pension funds, insurance companies, and the central bank. The largest foreign holders are Japan and China. So saying the US is indebted to China is partially true, but it represents only a small portion of the total. In fact, most of America's debt is owed to America itself. The government issues bonds, institutions buy them, the central bank sometimes repurchases them and creates new money. Citizens pay taxes, that money pays interest, and the interest flows back into pension funds. A complete cycle. And this isn't unique to America. Countries lend to each other, and the money eventually flows back through different channels. It's like a massive game where everyone lends to everyone else. Imagine a poker table where every player's chips were borrowed from the person sitting next to them. But no one can be allowed to leave the table. There is also the market side of the story. Giant investment funds, pension funds, and central banks determine who can borrow cheaply and who must pay high interest. When trust disappears, currencies can collapse, governments can shake, and economies can fall apart. In short, ballot boxes choose who governs, but markets decide who survives. Central banks sit at the heart of this system. When they purchase government bonds, they inject new money into the market. One entity's debt becomes another's asset. Every unit of money in circulation today corresponds to debt somewhere. There is no such thing as debt-free money. This system has survived for years because of trust. As long as investors believe governments will continue paying interest, the system keeps functioning, even if the principal is never fully repaid. But what happens when trust breaks down? We've seen it in Greece, Argentina, and Sri Lanka. When debt becomes unpayable, crises, unemployment, austerity, and political chaos follow. Then creditors appear on the scene: the IMF, major funds, credit agencies. Even then, the system doesn't completely stop. Old debts are swapped for new ones. The wheel turns again. Because in the modern world, government debts are not designed to be eliminated. They are meant to be continuously rolled over. Governments take new debt to pay old debt. This is called refinancing. What truly gets paid is not the principal, but the interest. The U.S. will not fully eliminate its debt. Japan hasn't done so for decades. Investors don't want their principal returned. They want the system to keep operating. Government bonds are considered one of the safest investment instruments in the world. In fact, imagine this. If the United States suddenly paid off all its debt, banks around the world would lose their safest assets, money supply would shrink, and the economy could stall. In other words, eliminating the debt could also eliminate the system. That's why debt keeps growing, but in a controlled way. It's like the heartbeat of capitalism. This is why political promises to eliminate the debt are rarely realistic. The goal isn't to erase debt, but to keep it sustainable. And here lies the real secret. The plan is not to fully repay the debt, but to ensure that everyone continues believing it will be repaid. However, this system does not benefit everyone equally. Interest payments typically flow from workers and taxpayers toward large institutions holding the debt. So, debt is not only a transfer between countries, but also within societies. As debt grows, inequality can grow as well. Creditors are not purely villains, and debtors are not innocent. Both are gears in the same machine. The real issue is what happens if this system becomes unsustainable. At that point, the question, who is the creditor, stops being theoretical and becomes something that concerns all of us. Because there isn't a single culprit. Not China, not Wall Street, not the IMF. All of them. And us as well. Today, in the modern world, debt has effectively become money itself. In the past, debt meant slavery. Today, it is the balance of the system. But if that balance breaks, we may once again remember what debt truly is, a promise that cannot be held forever. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, because the answers are in history. You just need to know where to look.